Okay, hey everybody, it's Brett from Moonstream. Just wanted to give you guys an update on the markets, what's been going on, what I'm seeing for Bitcoin and crypto, and some of the leading coins that I think will outperform here in the near future. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Here's a chart of Bitcoin, and of course, we all know by now that we broke above the recent highs over here around 108K to a new all-time high of 112,000 just to the nose. I was publicly selling Bitcoin the other day when it was on this candle and it had briefly gone red, and then they sort of pushed it higher, but I actually took profits from that. I had bought back around 78K when it came down to fill the CME gap, and of course you guys know I had sold my Bitcoin at 106K back in this region. Not all of it. I did get stopped out a couple times down in this region, decided to protect profits up here. So sold here, bought here, sold here again. Question is, what happens next? Well, I had outlined these two scenarios a week ago, scenario 1 and scenario 2. I did think that we would pull back here and come down in this area where we see the buyers around 98, 99K, double bottom, and then around June 5th, which is a daily, weekly cycle low if you guys follow cycles. So I was expecting the price to come down that range and then really take off, and that's not what we're seeing at this point. Scenario 2, I had drawn a breakout retest, so we've already done the retest. We've come back to retest that 108 resistance area as support, and in all actuality, that is a good thing. That is a good thing because breakouts usually happen on the third or fifth attempt. So had we not been able to stay above that, the triple top could have been bad for market structure, and we could have seen a fourth attempt reject and then pushing the ultimate parabolic run later onto the fifth attempt. So we'll have to see. Maybe what we do is we push up here, come down in this region, and then we go. Again, I'll be watching very carefully that June 5th region. Juan Villaverde, of course, also talking about a similar time frame with those cycles lining up. And so if we were to see this kind of a move and push up and then down and then go, I guess that would be another scenario, scenario 3. So let's add that to the chart and make sure we have all of these on here so that that's clear. How you do anything's how you do everything. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure we've got that on the chart. And we've got that third scenario now around that June 5th time frame. All right, you guys, well, let's take a little bit deeper look in all this. What do we have? Had a very nice 21 to 50-day crossover all the way back here. And, of course, we're in a nice new upward trending parallel trend channel. That's a mouthful, but I'd like to get these and draw them as soon as we can, which would also indicate that there's a lot more upside. I do think we can push higher fairly quickly into that 150K region. And probably, though, by the end of June, I think this first phase of the bull market has peaked out. We might get to 150K. We can see that happen quickly. And I'll show you some overlays on the next chart. All right, so what are our other signals showing us? A little bit overbought on the TSI and nothing really that important on the daily chart. Really focusing on the weekly. Signals are green. We had excellent entries on this with our trading signals here going green back in this area. If I turn on our early reversal indicator. So we had the green arrow right down at the 50-week EMA. Also, we had bullish divergence on our RSI Pro right there. That's also a bullish sign. And then we had our trend strength indicator confirmed back in there. So when these things start to confirm, very powerful. You can learn more at moonstream.io/max signals to get your hands on those. They are the most valuable, most impactful indicators that I've used, and we've built them to be that. So anyway, going along here, let's take a look at some other coins. The other thing I will point out, though, is we had some nice money flow. These are big institutions or big buyers, money flow actually buying. And typically, though, what we see are these areas retested, sometimes the midpoint. We had it retested a few times there, pushed up, again, retested, but these should hold. And so while I will point out a potential 12% pullback from around here because of the CME gaps and the IBIT rather, but I don't know. I think now that we're above 108K, holding as support does look bullish and would sort of signal that we can push higher even in the near term. And if we get another pullback into that sort of mid-cycle low or the daily weekly cycle low. So we're not really sure. We have to keep an eye on things. It is a holiday weekend here in the U.S., so anything could happen. Expect low volume and price to be a little bit volatile, or not at all. We just don't know these days. I will point out, though, that Solana dominance is sort of peeling up. Bitcoin dominance down a little bit. It was down earlier, so actually things are evening it out as well. But I like the way Solana dominance is starting to look. even though there's all of this sort of rejection and sell pressure in that area, it's worse on Bitcoin, right? This is Bitcoin dominance, huge sort of sell block. I'm not sure how we calculate it, to be honest, as dominance, but this was a big signal back in here around May 8th. And we're getting a bearish ERI here, so I don't know if we do see Bitcoin roll over, we could come all the way back down to this 200 SMA, and that would be that 10, 12, 15% correction that nobody's expecting. If we get that, we'll have an altcoin rally. Not altcoin season, but you know, we had altcoin weekend when Bitcoin pulled down, and so that'll be good for the overall altcoins, because Bitcoin's now down 3,000 for the day, still holding and bounced off that 108K level. Bearish engulfing, we'll have to see what happens. If we do lose 108K, we still could have that first scenario play out and have it be a hybrid. That would be the first time I've seen that happen in a long time, but certainly we can do it and see the unexpected with these markets. So anyway, that's Bitcoin. Solana, still looking good on Solana here. It was up for the day earlier. This is my take on Solana. You know, just go full screen. It's in a nice uptrending channel. Similarly, we caught the exact bottom right around 100 with our early reversal indicator there. And now it's in a nice upward trending channel above the 21 and 50-day EMAs. Guys, I don't really pay attention to golden crosses, and because they are lagging indicators. And it's much more powerful. These a little bit shorter term. Instead of 5,200, I like 21 over 50. And sure enough, we got in there. Big money flow block on Solana. Pushed up, broke above that 200 SMA up here, and now is still kind of rejecting and holding there. I do think we'll get above it, and I'll push up here to around $200. And I already have sell orders for my part of my Solana here, and then to buy back down here. I think it'll go up to 200, 205. It'll pull back to the 200 SMA, 200 week SMA, sorry, 200 day simple moving average. And then, you know, this is going to be a nice tradable coin all the way up to ultimately 300, and then breaking up into price discovery in the parabolic phase. I think Solana could go to 600, 750, maybe even 1,000. This cycle, but I think it's going to happen faster than people think. We'll have to see how that plays out. If we go to a weekly here, also seeing, you know, bullish signals, green, 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 but kind of hitting a sell zone, right? Actually, not quite yet, up around 250. So right in here, this is, with all these things on the chart, it's a little bit hard to see. Let me zoom out for us. So nice spinning top, you know, spinning top at Doji right on top of the 21 and 50 week EMAs. Very bullish. It's kind of above the thick ice and the thin ice. If you guys know my analogy rather, you don't want to be below the ice and drowning. You want to be above that ice. So we're back up above that. It's good to see. Okay, so let's pick up the pace here. Don't want to go through all of this. I do have some other charts to show you. And before we get too far into the coins, let's look at total market cap. Total market cap looks interesting here, but more pressure up ahead. It did break above this multi-month downward sloping trend line, and has come back to retest that. So I think, you know, we could even pull back a little further to the 21-day EMA and then push up here and kind of chop around a breakout in that area. We want to see price discovery. We want to bet up to an all new time high in price discovery for the total market caps. You know, my projections were at 3.3 trillion now. 3 trillion was the cycle high on the last market cycle, and I think we could get to 6. Some people are saying 9, but we'll just have to see. Need to clear these sell blocks over here like we did on Bitcoin the other day. Total 2 is not showing Bitcoin, but includes Ethereum. I think Ethereum is the sort of the dark horse, and you know, not going to do that well this cycle. And so this shows all of the sell pressure, because we don't see all that on total 3, telling me that Ethereum is really weighing down these markets. So this is certainly possible. I've drawn this fractal here from a prior cycle a couple years ago, and it's not going to be exact, but it's interesting, showing that Solana is driving total 3 and the other altcoins. So now that we're above the 21 and 50 EMAs, to push up into these resistance areas, and then a bit of a pullback in June. I think that we're going to see an overall pullback end of June. The reason is, if you look at a 2-year chart, then you only see so many candles after breaking out of the bear market. And there's typically only 4 of them. Is it a 2-year chart? Maybe it's a 6-month chart. I haven't looked at it in a while, but at any rate, I think that makes sense. And midsummer kind of pullback for Bitcoin and maybe the alts here, and then kicking off again in July, pushing up to all-time highs. So crypto total market 3 going to 1.5 trillion, certainly possible. and we can't wait till it gets up above these levels at 1.15 trillion, because that's when we're really going to see the quality alts. Maybe not all the smaller coins and shit coins. I am advising and recommending in this cycle, stay away from a lot of those very small cap coins that probably have no strategic value, have no real business model, and they're purely speculation. Really, I'm focusing on quality projects that have either investors or customers or a monetization model and market leader position. And or it doesn't need to be all of those, but many of these really do not. This is curious, actually. USDT dominance is up a bit here. We do want to keep an eye on that. Let me jump over, because that is a possible warning sign, and been paying attention to this based on that isn't really doing much. All right, I'm not going to get into that here. There is a new video about all this on our YouTube channel over at Moonstream Crypto, where I unpack that a little bit. I didn't want to get in the weeds too much on this video. So it's Friday, it's going into a holiday weekend, and wanted to make sure we get this out to you guys in time, and I've been super busy over here. By the way, if you guys wanted, I wanted to announce one new thing that we have. It's called Moonstream Academy. If you go to moonstreamacademy.com/start, this is a 50% off right now for founding members, and it's some great education community where you can chat with other members. And here's a video of why I sold my Bitcoin at 112 the other day, and lots of different updates and things like that. More for beginners who don't want to make a big commitment. It's $49 a month, very cheap. We're going to be raising that, doubling that soon. Also recording some trainings inside of the classroom here. So look forward to that. And I do have a couple spots left for working with me one-on-one. You can learn more at moonstream.io/Max Coaching. That's all with permission from Max. I had the pleasure of seeing Max recently down in Miami, Florida. He's not going to the Bitcoin conference this year, but I'll be there next week, everybody. And so if you'd like some help or would like to book a call to see if I can help you, just cruise on over to moonstream.io/Max Coaching. All right, so let's get back into it. Going into the alts here, a couple of these standing out. I like Solana. I like Stacks. Stacks looking good here. Pretty cool project. It goes up with Bitcoin generally. Has some nice upside potential here from down around the $1 range, just under $1, and I think it could go up here. Look, it's been up. It's been up in this range. Maybe it doesn't get all the way up here in this kind of upward parallel channel, but even at $4 and $5, that's a 4x. So some nice take profit zones on the way up, and so keeping an eye on that. Ondo also, I like this here. It's in a nice uptrending parallel channel as well. Kind of selling off a bit today, as with the whole market and the new comments by President Trump about tariffs, but I think they're going to work all that out. By now we know his game plan, and kind of bullying people into kind of working things out, and then the markets rally. So it's the markets have delayed the rally, kind of erased gains from yesterday, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. And some of these projects that we like still looking good. Also in the DeFi area, Lido Finance has a bit of a pullback here with the overall market, but it's still putting in higher lows. So oversold on our trend strength indicator. I think it's looking good. And Say is another one that I have had on my radar and was starting to perk up here, and I think will likely hold and head higher. So Say and Sui also still kind of in a good position. Sui's got to hold this level though, and otherwise I think it will, because of these money flow blocks. Lots of money flow in here. Typically these do hold because these big buyers want to hold their and protect their position. Plus we have these buy limit orders in this block. Again, these are some of our proprietary indicators that you can learn over on the site I gave you before. And a couple others in here, Polkadot, INJ, Near, if you want to have some exposure to gaming, I think IMX is one of the better ones. And even though gaming as a whole I don't think it has a lot of prospects in this bull market. There's not a lot of money for altcoins, and to be honest, gaming, all the money's flowing into these big for-profit companies, centralized companies in gaming, and they're buying up all of the GPUs. So I think it's going to be a while maybe before crypto gaming is ready for prime time. And I'm just seeing that in the charts. IMX is looking a little better than the others, so I'm riding that out as my exposure to the gaming sector. Other than that, DeepIn, I did sell out of, let's talk about Render first as part of the AI area, but a lot of sell pressure up above. I don't think it has too much higher. And so I've been selling out of some of these positions that have lots of sellers lining up in these red boxes up above. We call it overhead supply. People that bought back in here thinking it would go higher, and then it dropped. So they're really looking to get out at break even. In the deep end space, helium, I still like the project, hitting some sell blocks in here. So I de-risked my position, reallocated to some other things. And just keeping an eye on a number of these that, we had that big green day yesterday. I will just say that it typically, when we have 3 green days in a row, some kind of a pullback is usually what follows. I mean, we can just look at helium coin, 3 green days and then red, 3 green and red, 3 green and red. So, might be something to keep in mind on for the future. When we have 3 days up, everybody's excited. They want to go all in, but here, 3 days up and then red. 2 days up and red. So Sol has a little more strength. So, just be aware that these markets do ebb and flow. You can't have a tug of war without both teams playing. Each time has to win a little bit each time, or there's no contest. Just remember that. So don't be discouraged. It's a little bit of a red day going to the weekend. We'll have to see what happens coming out of the week, coming into next week after the holiday. And the Bitcoin conference is next week. As I said, generally there's a lot of positive emotion, and people are buying more Bitcoin, and everyone's saying never sell your Bitcoin and all of that. So the only thing I'll just point out, though, is on this IBIT chart, we do have an unfilled gap on the 4-hour chart down in this range, and they haven't all filled. We've got one down here, and then we got a bigger one all the way back here from last November, and maybe in the bear market we'll see that fill. But in the short term, if we did pull back, it would be another 12% or say 10% from here. If we had some, sell off over the weekend to fill this gap, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It would kind of give us the grounds to really bounce off of that and go much higher, hopefully. I did want to revisit my path to 150K. If you guys haven't seen this, by the way, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like button. You don't have to smash anything. You just like the content, subscribe, and drop a comment. That would be awesome, and we'll make sure and do more of these. This Fibonacci study is my path to 150, 200K Bitcoin, and it was drawn exactly the same as the last cycle. So if you take your Fibonacci tool from the cycle top here in 2017 down to the bottom around 16.5, and you drag it out here, it perfectly predicted the Bitcoin top right over here at 63, 64K the first time. Many people think that was the real top, myself included, and this was a Wyckoff upthrust after distribution, so it threw up a little bit over here and over there, but drawing that same Fibonacci study from the market cycle top on this one from the 69K down here and extending it out, does that give us the next tops? Well, let's take a look at it. So it did suggest the 1.618 would go right to 100,000, which we did, and we rejected a bit, pulled back. Also notice these trend lines, very important. If you remember from geometry school, that if you do that study where you draw lines at gradually increasing slopes, you'll actually turn that into a parabola. Well, in the bull run, same thing. So we have this longer term slope here. I'll just go to the weekly briefly. So all the way from back here, 2017, it held in January 19th, and then the COVID crash. And then, of course, it also held price in that last bear market low around 16.5. From there, we put in a new steeper angle, drawing here to here. And then a little bit thereafter, we were able to draw an even steeper angle there, which held in April 2025. But since then, we've been on perhaps and likely the fourth and final blow-off top angle. So we want to be watching this, and for any signs of rejection. And let me draw it this way, because if I move that out of the way, this trend line is tracking. This is the weekly chart. It might look a little differently on the daily. And let's just do weekly for simplicity and not get in the weeds. But we have that from here to there, possibly going up into this range. If I overlay this, what does it show? And it says potentially push up to that 150K region. I've been saying that for over a year, maybe 2 years. Those are my targets based on those Fibonacci's and another study that I won't do today, but the bull flag breakout from kind of late last year, the measured move also puts us at 150 to 200K. So I think we'll see a bit of a sell-off here, a time frame around end of June. This can happen quickly. We're already here to push up to 150K. We could do that. Here's that red arrow, possible sell-off in Bitcoin, maybe 10, 20%, 25%, who knows? As long as it keeps and holds at that trend line support and rallies off of it. So we'll be looking to take some profits at 150K. Maybe we get a throw over. Actually this chart, it could, it could throw over a bit. 150K though, I'll be taking profits, buying the dip if our signals aligned, and then hopefully do push up ultimately to this 200K level. And once that trend line rejects, then I think the party's over, you guys. And, we'll see the hype cycle kicking into high gear. Kathy Wood and Tom Lee raising their estimates to millions of dollars of Bitcoin. And then just be aware that these talking heads and all the media are going to do that to try to get retail to buy in and keep on buying, so their institutional owners and clients can cash out and use this for exit liquidity. All right, everyone get that? I will just touch on two of the reasons for these prices are possible. I've been making this list since 2017, the path to 150K to 200K. We had 7 things on here that since then I've added. Now we're up to 11. The green checks have happened. BlackRock, ETFs, Fidelity, that's done. Some of these question marks haven't happened yet or are not fully complete. We didn't get the bank term funding program pushing prices into Bitcoin, but I think we have more bank failures around the corner because of number 10, the commercial real estate crash and the global fiat debt bubble, rather. Housing also bubbles 2 to 3 times bigger than the financial crisis. So 2026 is going to be interesting, possibly painful there. It'll be a good time to take profits and put it into some kind of yield-bearing liquidity mining program or something like that. That's what I'm going to do. But all of these creative financing, QE, we haven't had QE yet per se, but I think it's probably imminent. Won't go into reasons why, but I think that's going to probably happen later this summer. And de-dollarization. BRICS, haven't heard much about that. They're still trying to make that happen. But corporate FOMO, MicroStrategy, Tesla, Apple, yes. And actually, BlackRock can go on that list because BlackRock now owns, they're the second largest holder of Bitcoin next to Satoshi, believe it or not. So let's update that. BlackRock, they're sort of in here twice as the number one, but because of the FOMO, these other ETFs and companies are going to really start to buy up, like we're seeing overseas and from SoftBank and a couple others. All right, so I won't go through all of these, but they are all contributing toward this push up in Bitcoin, and we're really waiting for this global fiat debt bubble. And, what happens? Commercial real estate crash. Do they push us into a stable coin? Is that the answer? And, the other question mark is if they revalue gold to current prices and mark to market. The price of gold on the books is way, way, way cheaper from 30 years ago or something or longer. If they revalue it at current prices, they could sell a whole bunch of gold and use that to buy Bitcoin as the U.S. government for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Hope we get more news about that at the Vegas Bitcoin conference. All right, so that's enough about that. I think that's all I really wanted to get into today. If we wanted to look at some other coins, you guys can drop those down in the bottom for next week, and I'll look at that. But just in terms of the what's going on here, Bitcoin on the 4-hour, kind of seeing the Bollinger Bands tightening, could be setting up for another push higher. I did say earlier in the day we'd see this drop because of our bearish divergence here on the RSI Pro. These tools are great for day trading, swing trading, and also had this show up, the trend strength indicator breaking down below 80 and 20. Guys, when they have these confluence, it's a no-brainer. It's like, okay, it's going lower as we are. And then we are into a buy block, bouncing, comes down to 107. I think then Bitcoin does start to rally back out of that along with the rest of the market. Just have to see, and I'm going to be kind of quiet. I'm going to hold throughout the weekend, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Beware of weekend trading. Bitcoin is very much a Wall Street product now because of the IBIT, so typically you'll see a lot of finagling and shenanigans in the markets, and then the real markets open back up on Monday, and we'll see. Do they start buying more of the IBIT, or what's going on there? All right, so, and by the way, some of these studies you can follow on TradingView that I haven't updated here, but I probably should do this again. But one of my studies calling for the top as that I'm watching is interesting here. Let me just hit play on this. The intersection of where the the price comes up above the old all-time high is usually kind of where the new, and then also touching the 200 SMA. is where the new cycle high is. So that kind of puts us maybe over in here, time frame July of 25, and we'll have to see. Let me hit that play. But not much has changed there. So anyway, just some things I've done over there on that page. And that's about all I have for you this week. Moonstream Academy is over at moonstreamacademy.com/start. And if you want to book a time with me, if you'd like help optimizing your portfolio in an interactive Google Doc, I have space for 2 more clients here in the short term. I am very busy right now, so that's at moonstream.io/maxcoaching. Not for everybody, but looking to de-risk and make the most out of the bull run. And if you have 20, 50,000 or 100,000 or more in the markets, I'm your guy. All right, thanks everybody, and special thanks to Max for letting me join you guys, and hope you guys have a great time. I will not talk to you next week because I'll be at the Bitcoin conference. I don't know, maybe I'll jump in from the hotel when it's all over, and I'll definitely be taking some photos and doing some interviews. But anyway, bye.